To work with your idol, that seems impossible. Is it?
When I grew up watching music videos, he was my idol. Okay, he's never gonna see this message, but hey bro, I'm a big fan. Can I come visit you? Well, I can't have visitors, but you can work.
If you have seen a music video, then high chance you've seen this man's editing. Chancler Haynes.
Does this look dope? Let's try to make it look dope.
His videos have accumulated over 10 billion views and break YouTube trending every time. His most recent banger was with Taylor Swift, who is both the artist and the director.
She plans out her video, storyboards it, and shoots for the edit.
You make the music video before you make the music video.
Basically, yeah.
We explore how they both discovered that method through his idol, the Spielberg of music videos, Joseph Kahn.
Joseph, to me, was the only filmmaker I wanted to meet. Working with him is like going to film school every day.
And his intuition for editing comes from something that you might not expect.
Action and choreography influence like movement and rhythm in editing, like a fight scene with words.
You work with Joseph Kahn super closely on all of Taylor's videos. And then Taylor went off and started getting creative by herself and actually directed her own music videos. And she asked you to edit. So did you actually work with her in person for that?
Yeah, and Joseph gave me the blessing to do so. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Taylor, but I also had to hit up the number one and be like, hey, bro, like she wants me to edit for her and I really want to jump in. Are you cool with it? And he was like, yeah, she's, you know, he knows how talented she is, you know what I mean? And so he thought it'd be good collaboration for me to get in there and work with her. And I was honored to take that boost and go in there and do this. So yeah, I work with her a lot on set. She plans out her video, storyboards it, and shoots for the edit. And she'll shoot some shots, come back and look at the edit and make some changes and just keep rolling.
How is working with her creatively in an edit bay or even just in person in an edit?
She's shooting for herself, you know what I mean? So a lot of times she already knows what she wants. And so it's not really a lot of a notes process per se, because she's the one, like, would be the one giving the notes. Taylor's got like the direct focus of what she wants to do for her songs.
I know she also likes to throw in a lot of Easter eggs in her music videos as well. Was there even like a checklist of Easter eggs that you had to ensure are in the video, or
she puts all that stuff in her boards, so she knows what she's doing. Like yeah. I'll find out as we're shooting. It's like, oh, okay, that's what that is. You know? So yeah,
so you didn't even know that.
And yeah, and a lot of times she'll add some stuff in VFX too. So like, yeah, she's got her Easter eggs down to a T.
Down to a T.
Goes over.
Oh! You've known Joseph for 12 years now. He came from feature films, which is why his music videos have such a high visual storytelling component to them.
He makes a story in 3 to 4 minutes. The best way for me to explain how big this guy is, how Mr. Beast is like the biggest YouTuber ever, Joseph Kahn is the biggest music video director ever.
How did you meet Joseph? You said you were a fanboy before.
Yeah.
And like, how did you
so
get
I'll give
into,
you the full story.
Filmmaking?
You guys can cut it down if you want.
Love
it. It's one of my favorite stories to tell because honestly, if I didn't meet Joseph in this fashion, I would probably still be working as a movie theater projectionist right now. I was like a total film nerd, you know, and in high school and didn't have cable. So only way for me to see music videos was like in my radio TV class in high school. So one fun afternoon in January 2004, I went to see Torque. So I saw the poster, I'd never seen a trailer. I was like, man, this is a Joseph Kahn movie. I didn't know he was making movies, you know? So I went and watched it and it was like the best thing I'd ever seen. Watched it like 3 times that day. I was like stupefied by all the pizzazz that he was doing. He was like bringing every Spielberg trick out of the book that he had at the time and just like was doing it in the big screen cinema form. And I was like blown away. But apparently I was probably one of 2 people who thought that because I went back to the class library to get on the internet. And because, you know, we didn't have phones back then. Yep. So IMDb had message boards back then. So I was on the IMDb message boards. You remember that?
Those. I remember those, yeah.
So I was going just to research and find more about, like, is Joseph doing more movies? Like, what's going on? And I saw, like, the slew of people who were trashing the movie. And I was just like, you guys, are you blind? Like, we talking about, are we watching the same movie? Like, so I spent like, I don't know, an hour or so just like telling off literally everybody I could on that message board. So fast forward, graduation, and I'm back in Texas now, and I am not really doing anything in film. Still, I think I went back to my movie theater job, and MySpace was popular. I got on there and saw Joseph had a page on there, and it's like the first time you can actually talk to somebody who has done something cool in film, like on MySpace. So I just was like, hey, he's never going to see this message, but hey, Joseph Kahn, I'm a big fan, you know, simple message. And he writes me back in like 10 minutes. And I was like,
Ooh, wow.
He's like, I remember you from IMDb. I'm putting you on my top. After that, we just kept in contact via MySpace, via Twitter, Facebook, whatever came out at the time. We were just like talking friends on the internet at that point. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to be in California. Can I come visit you? Can I come like see what you're doing on set? And so he was like, well, I can't have visitors, but you can work. And I was like, well, that's even better. So that was like me being a PA for the first time with him, like while I was visiting. And he said, if you ever find a way to move to California, I'll find a way to get you some work. I was like, well, that's all you had to say. And from then I started PAing for Joseph, and he had just finished Detention, his second movie. And he let me like play around on the Avid and do a trailer for him. And he really liked it. So that was like the first thing I cut. And it was like the first thing that like got released. And so he started giving me more work after that. And just like, the rest is history.
A lot of people I've worked with just film as much as they can, similar thing, give me the footage and say, hey, go figure it out. But some of the ways that these music videos have been presented tells me a lot of it is thought out before we've even thought about picking up a camera. Like a
100%.
lot of previs, a lot of very much figuring out what each frame would mean, what each cut would particularly mean. How much earlier in the process is it do you get involved in, and compared to then once like everything is filmed and then figuring out the next steps there?
Joseph knows his music videos, his commercials, his films like inside and out. So he has them pretty much all the way planned out before he even gets to set.
Wow.
So a lot of times I am helping with his previses because he storyboards his own stuff. So he'll draw everything for the music videos, and sometimes there'll be little stick figures, or sometimes he has a storyboard artist actually, draw little frames and everything. And we piece it and time it and get the video the way it's supposed to be. And we basically shoot for the edit. We still shoot a lot. So like there's still enough to when there's changes that need to be made, we have some options, but there's never any, we didn't get that because, I'm with him on set. So we pretty much have everything we need.
You've made the music video before you make the music video.
Basically, yeah.
I love that.
Most music videos are shot, the day, a couple days before, and then they send them to the editor, and the editor has to figure it out. That's just the reality.
That's how
it
it
comes to become a disaster at times. But
Yeah.
You guys had the luxury of you being on set and you getting the footage almost instantly after it's shot.
Yeah, I mean, he shoots, and I kind of get a live feed from the VTR, and I just start cutting as he's shooting.
How does that workflow work?
Basically, those storyboards that we've cut together, the Blackmagic capture device that has the little recorder on it, I just capture that stuff and drag it into Premiere, or if I'm on Avid, I can record, and I just start cutting it in, and we work with it in between setups. And there's a lot of time in between setups to do a lot of things. So like half the time we shoot a scene, and then he's setting up the next scene. We have that scene we just shot pretty much cut together. And a lot of times at the end of the shoot, we'll show like a rough cut, super, super rough cut with like really, really wonky comps from me.
That's true.
But even in the traditional sense, Joseph has done those too, where we didn't have like the time or the luxury to do a full storyboard for every single shot. And he has basic ideas of what he wants to do. And we'll go and shoot the music video traditionally. And I'm still on set, but we're figuring it out as he's getting to the next shot. Like one of my favorite ones we've done so far was the Chris Brown Iffy video. That one had very little storyboarding. He had the idea, he had exactly what he wanted to do, but I was out there with him, like figuring it out. And it was fun because we came up with some really fun stuff. So
how does that collaboration work when you're on set? Because that's so rare for an editor to be on set. I've only been on set once for a music video.
Yeah.
And it was not even for the music video that was being shot. I was editing because the director was there. And
Right.
He had to work on two at the same time.
Right.
And that's the only reason I was there. So how does that workflow work?
It depends on the location because when you're on stage, you can get a table set up and you can just like get the footage in and just work. But a lot of times Joseph shoots really fast and we're on different locations, and his DP David Weldon is pretty cool. He has like a little tray on his DP monitor, on his big monitor, so he lets me put my laptop up there sometimes and just like feed into his monitor and like get shots when I need to, and just like run to wherever else Joseph is shooting and plug into that camera. So it's a lot of running around with a laptop.
So you're essentially
footage.
screen recording with a capture device from any monitor on set.
It doesn't really have the time code burned in, but like
Yeah.
I'm recording the screen. So later when I get the proxies or the transcodes, I will just like overcut what I did.
I've always had this sort of debate whether the editor should be on set or not. The argument often is, let's just say the filmmakers spend half the day trying to get this one shot and they get it and they all celebrate and it's great. And then the editors on that day, they would be part of that story. So they would feel compelled to use it in the edit as well. But then if the editor wasn't on set and didn't get that story and saw that shot and went, actually, that was a bit of a crap shot, and therefore got rid of it, that's often the argument as to why an editor should be on set, also shouldn't be on set.
I agree with that. Like, sometimes you don't really need to know what it took to get the shot, because that can affect like your decision making, seeing it from just like a removed point of view. And also the on-set editing only works with certain styles of shooting. You know what I mean? Like, I really only do that with Joseph and maybe Taylor, and then that's pretty much it right now. Like, a lot of other directors don't really shoot in the structured form that Joseph does.
Every editor, has their cut, their signature style. Like, what is your thing that is like, oh, okay, that's a Chancler edit?
I just like, does this look dope? Let's try to make it look dope. And then that's what happens. You know what I mean? And then, do you like it? Cool. Let's make it dope now. Like, I don't really have like a science. I just have like a feeling for what I'm going for. Right. And sometimes those feelings lean towards the rhythmic side, or the, trying to put two vectors of motions in the same direction type thing, which is all things that I learned from Joseph, and like what Joseph's gathered from like Spielberg. And it's kind of, everything's all kind of a collaborative inspiration.
We'll talk about that vector thing. I've never heard of that.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's one of the first lessons I learned from Joseph, and like the way that he edits vector editing and geometric editing. So it's basically, you see an object go from left to right, you cut the next object left to right.
I've noticed that on another music video that you edited, Thunder by Imagine Dragons. I'm watching that one. And again, another fantastic music video. But as I'm watching it, I noticed to an extent the presentation of it is very much on the eye lines as well, where there's lots of match cuts. There's lots of leading lines to help me towards anticipate when the next cut's going to be.
Yeah.
So much so that I feel like I could watch that music video in a 4:3 format, just cut off the two sides, because a lot of it is done in the center framing.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of fast cuts and so much changes going on, but because a lot of the cutting is focused on the center frame, it makes it flow and feel so much more comfortable.
Yeah.
When you're relaying that much information, because I'm not having to look around constantly, because again, it looks like the editing is got that vector and those eye lines, that movement influences the next cut.
Yeah.
And so like, again, I think, was that also part of like just an instinctual design, or like a very, maybe potentially even a specific choice as you're making those cuts?
When Joseph started that, he wanted to play around with repetition. You know what I mean? So we came up with a lot of different editing things to do to let the repetition pay off. Because, a lot of times a music video you'll see the whole video in the first 4 minutes a lot of times. And this was set up in that way we're in like one cool location and we're just playing around with it, but each third moment would be like something different. You know what I mean? So we're trying to we'll show you him clapping his hands, and then you see him do it again. Then the third time there's like another guy there for some reason. It's like different things pay off in the different progressions, and we're just playing around with that the whole video.
My favorite part of this music video. Okay, I literally screamed when I watched this the first time. And I was like, this is the most genius editing thing I've ever seen. Is when, it's when the thunder, bum, bum, bum. Thunder, feel the thunder.
The twister guy? Yeah,
when there's no sound, but you cut to the rhythm of that. Thunder, feel the thunder. Thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. I just want to know the backstory behind that creative idea.
I think on this part, when you coming up with like a third act of any music video, you have to build up to something. And this was the part where we had to put accumulation of everything that we shot into like this big crescendo of the same shots you've seen before, but like, added sprinkles of other things in there. So that was just something I think I felt.
Yes.
Like it wasn't really like a, what we should do here. I didn't really, it was just like, naturally, if you're seeing this guy's close up and you're seeing this guy's close up, you want to see those 3 aliens too.
I don't know what it is about it, but like I could just tell that was a choice made when you're trying to figure out those types of cuts, rather than it being like a prevised idea.
Right.
And I think same thing again. You like that rule was set up like twice already. You set up the idea, you emphasize the pattern, and then on the third time that moment came along, we were expecting it. And then that's why it felt so effective on that moment. I call it the dopamine cut. When you get that cut and you just get that wave of dopamine of like, that was great. Yeah. That was great. I want to watch it again over and over again. So for me, yeah, that was such a beautiful cut. And I love the fact that you came up, even then, even in the edit, you're still experimenting and trying new things.
Yeah, I mean, and he encourages that. He loves that. Like, one other thing that we had fun with was on Look What You Made Me Do, the ending dance scene. And dance is my favorite. So like, the whole video is like very structured and very, storyboarded, and it's a film we're telling, But that dance scene is kind of just like, all right, shoot this wide, shoot the legs, and then he's like, Chancler, go have fun. Yeah. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, and so then we had that one section, kind of like the 3 repetition thing that we did on Thunder, where she does a little thing where she like squats down to her legs, and in the choreography she only does that once. So I did the thing where she squats down 3 times. And there was a couple of people in the camp that were precious with the choreography. And I was like, no, but look, it's dope because you just like see the, I was just like trying to like talk it up. And Joseph stood up for me. He was like, no, this is a good, he like told them in a much more like professional way. We just be like, no, please let me do it. And he was just like, no, this is like a good progression. And and Taylor liked it. So like, that was one of my favorite parts because it was like, dance and just like cutting around with it. So
that's a really good creative relationship when the director is like the biggest fan of the editor. What's like the current challenges of working with Avid, let's say comparative to even other softwares at the moment?
I think it boils down to whatever's the most comfortable. And what's more comfortable for me in Avid is just the media management and organization, which only is because that's kind of how I came up when I was being an assistant in like the post houses, and I learned their way and working with a lot of different people on the same project and sharing bins, and it just seems to work. I mean, it works in Premiere too, but I've had better luck with the organization.
How did you transition from, working with Joseph, getting your start there? How did you get into the post house world?
Well, when I first moved out here and was PAing with on Joseph commercials, I was able to get in as an assistant on some jobs at a post house through one of Joseph's other editors, and he was working at a post house. So I was like assisting him and then assisting other post houses and kind of like freelancing around town.
Did you ever think about not wanting to be an assistant? Because here's the thing. I had been in this space where I had started editing things. Mm-hmm. And then I talked to a few post houses and they're like, hey, we would love to have you on as an assistant. And I was like, shoot, I don't want to go back to being an assistant. Like that's the way that the industry works. And that's how you learn and grow. And that's how you become mentored by the older guys, and you really get to understand how to work a room and all of those. Those are great, valuable lessons. But I felt like I'd be taking a pay cut and I would be almost going backwards before going forwards again.
As a freelance assist, I was getting paid more per job. But if the jobs weren't coming as often, that staff position sounded pretty nice. You know what I mean? So it was kind of depending on what else I had going on. Like when I was freelance, I was assisting and I was cutting. So it kind of worked. I think it was around the time that I was about to start having kids that I was like, I want some of that good old insurance.
So with post houses, that also often mean probably managing multiple projects at the same time?
Yeah. A lot of times you're on at least 2 jobs at a time.
Let's just say an action sequence, and then suddenly you got to do a comedy commercial. Do you often struggle with the transition between the creative thinking and that?
Not really, actually.
Just my problem then.
No, I mean, you got a script, you got your project. You just turn the comedy action brain on when you're working on that, and then turn the musical brain on when you're working on that.
Do you have any like secret phrases or secret like communication strategies that you also use with your clients as well?
I was wrestling with the politics of all that stuff and trying to understand how to get what you want out of an edit, and then, get what the clients want. And then I've come around to the conclusion that I just want to make the best edit no matter what. So like if they don't like the cut that I showed them, then I'm going to try to make the cut that they like better. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's like at the end of the day, we are putting our creative juices into it, but it's the director's project, or it's the producer's project, or it's the client's project. You know what I mean? So it's their work, but they're using us to put our creative juices in it. So I've kind of stopped getting too precious with but I'm telling you, this is the best shot. I mean, no matter what, eventually, whatever you're doing, that commercial is going to be on TV.
Yeah.
That movie is going to be on the screen, and no matter what anyone else thinks, they're gonna like your editing peers. They're gonna see edited by. You know what I mean? So they're not gonna say, "Oh man, that client must have made him put that whack shot in there." You know what I mean?
One thing I've definitely found interesting is, I think also Jordan pointed this out. You were a stuntman to begin with, weren't you?
I was an aspiring stuntman.
An aspiring stuntman.
I've never. Well, Joseph put me in one Super Bowl commercial. I was a PA, but he gave me a stunt role, which was pretty fun.
Tell me about that.
I mean, it was basically on a Ferris wheel that gets detached and rolls through town. So I was on a green screen, but it was fun though because I got to be on like a little hydraulic thing and look scared. But like, yeah, he knows that my passions have always been like action and Jackie Chan and stunts. So he like let me get a little taste of it.
I'm often very conscious of a lot of editors being aware of like what are happening externally, what are they doing in their lives outside of the editing studio, and so that's why I'm curious in being as a stuntman or like aspiring to be a stuntman, understanding fitness, being able to do the flips and those action sequences as well. Has those experiences also helped you in the creative process and editing as well?
Maybe so. I mean, I've always been into martial arts since I was in high school, and I mean, off and on in classes back then, but since then it's kind of just been like practicing on my own. And then since I moved to LA, I was able to meet some really cool stunt guys who do it for real. So I keep up just enough to be able to hang out with them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think action and choreography and all those things kind of influence like movement and rhythm in editing. You know what I mean? Like Joseph even told me when we were doing Body to like cut the battle rap scenes as if it was a boxing match, as if it was like, you know, a fight scene, because, you know, you got the different coverage on everybody. You want to show the emotion and you treat it like it's a fight, you know? I kind of infused that, you know, kind of like a fight scene with words.
That passion and that studying would then mean that if you're handed those sequences, you already have like a decent base knowledge of understanding of how to make this effective straight away, rather than compared to someone who's probably never done stunt work or watch a Jackie Chan movie. You've had those experiences as men that you can like straight away get what you already know exactly what needs to be done.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, I've always enjoyed action cinema. So whenever I get any kind of piece of action in the project, I just have a ball, you know?
Yeah. I want to know about your relationship with Jackie Chan. Like, how has he been a massive influence for you as well?
Well, I've been watching old Jackie Chan VHSs since before he came out with Rush Hour, before he came to America with Rumble in the Bronx, actually. Like, my uncle had a movie called Fearless Hyena on widescreen VHS, and I found it, and I just was like, what is this, and where can I get more?
Let's go.
So I saw like maybe two of those like early 90s, like right before he got his Lifetime Achievement Award on MTV in 95 when Quentin introduced him. And then that's when I put two and two together. I didn't really know who the guy was on the VHSs, but then when he came out with Rumble in the Bronx, I became a full-blown fan in 96.
The only other stunt I've seen of him is one when he's like, he has to do a fight scene, but he's naked. And so the comedy of it is in having to cover himself.
The accidental
as he's
spy, yeah.
And that's brilliant. I think that's what I've seen of Jackie, where it's like he has
a 3-act structure to each one of his fight scenes. Yeah. He tells a story with his choreography and with his blocking. And I really dig that. And I think I caught on to that, which is kind of why I kind of gravitated towards Joseph early on in his music videos, because all of his videos have like a structure and a blocking and a choreography that mimicked Jackie Chan type style filmmaking. So
do you miss that type of filmmaking today in terms of like, let's just say most movies, a lot of fight sequences is kind of just a lot of visual noise?
There's some good action and then, there's some visual noise, but there are a lot of good action designers out there right now. Some of the top-notch action people right now are 8711 Action Design. They're constantly putting out good stuff like the John Wicks. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's great action. Yeah.
The clean Jackie Chan style action that you can see, and it's like in clean takes. And one of my other editing mentors, Elizabeth, she cut the first John Wick. She cut Shang-Chi in Legend of the Ten Rings.
It's fantastic, yeah.
She cut Atomic Blonde.
Yep.
So it's like she's legit. So there's plenty of good action out right now.
I think I might need to backtrack my visual noise comment, actually, because you're right. There is some really.
But there's a lot of controversial. There's a lot of noise.
There is a lot of noise.
But there's really good action out right now.
There is. You're right. Yeah. Everything Everywhere All at Once, fantastic action. Atomic Blonde, John Wick, even Shang-Chi, all fantastic action. The bus sequence from Shang-Chi is fantastic as well. Yeah. Coming back to Everything Everywhere All at Once, there are movies where it's very clear from the get-go, they know exactly what type of movie they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That movie, for me, was just like a euphoric finally sort of moment for me. It was like, this is the best movie I've seen in a very long time. And I think a lot of it was definitely down to the action, the cinematography, the editing, the whole construction of that movie was just so beautiful for me.
Action is great in that. And you have Andy and Brian Lee to thank for that, the Marshall Club, who they started on YouTube and they built a following. I was a fan of theirs, and I ended up meeting them a couple of times over at the Jam Gym where, all the stuntmen train and do all the cool stuff. And they're just like legit, and they've done their YouTube thing and built short films and built a following. And Andy was actually in Shang-Chi as the death dealer. That's him.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. And they did all the action designing for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And that should be inspiration enough for the YouTube community to just no, you can start on YouTube and make your videos and practice your art, and people will notice and give you a shot.
I think most creators today probably are making their start in their careers via YouTube and even TikTok as well. Do you think that's often the best way for maybe most creators today? Like if they want to be able to get their career started, is to probably invest their time onto YouTube? Or is there still a benefit of following the traditional route as well?
I believe the answer is yes. Because it works equally in both ways. You know what I mean? Back when I was coming up in the MySpace, there was no YouTube, and it was you had to rent cameras and lights to shoot anything. You know what I mean? I'm making little short films with my kids with my iPhone all the time just to practice. Yeah. And you can do that. You could just shoot stuff and practice and show the skills you have and just put it out there. And so if you have the time and the creativity to do it, I say do it. But if you also have the end to get into one of these places that can give you some insight on the structure of doing these big jobs and the workflows, that's valuable information too.
There's been arguments on both sides where, again, let's just say with going to a film university, they're going to give you some very interesting lessons that you probably would never learn of experience. The best example would be with a lot of YouTube creators don't even know the concept of the Kuleshov effect. The most basic cut ever is something that I learned in film university and has now begun just using that as the basic rule, has taught me so much. But then also with experience, you also probably have lessons that film university would never teach you.
If you feel like you're going to get more information from the school you have an opportunity to go to, if you get accepted to a school, I say take that opportunity and learn what you can, but don't pass up the opportunity to learn, on the job, because that's the real deal. I mean, the teachers probably have a lot of good information that they've learned, but the people you're working with have actually done some things recently and are still doing things and are constantly coming up with ideas. I tell you, Joseph's constantly coming up with new ideas that I can't even comprehend or repeat because they're so out there. And it's you don't get that stuff out of film school. You know what I mean? So they're both kind of a blessing, If you get an opportunity to take one, take one.
There is no wrong answer,
I
think.
And it's always, no matter which road you go down, it's going to land on you. You can get the best job in the industry, but if you don't have the right attitude, or if you do something and mess it up, then you're not going to work again.
Yeah.
You can have the best college education, but if you don't have the go-getter nature to go and try and find work afterwards, you can't use that knowledge you learned. So no matter what road you take, it's going to be you the one that's walking down it. So I feel you have to just kind of figure out what you want to do.
That was beautiful.
And what you're passionate about. And just love movies, because movies are awesome.
Dude, I love that. I think what's so cool about your story is that passion just imbues through you.
Yeah.
You've been a projectionist, you've loved movies, you've gone to the movies every single week. You find a favorite movie, you watch it 3 times in a row instantly. Who else does that? Only people that really freaking love movies do that.
Yeah.
And then you have the initiative to just go chase after this guy that you're a fan of. And you just do it for fun anyway, right?
Yep.
And I mean, that's just, I love that about you. And that says so much about your character and about why people want to keep working with you over and over again.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Dude, I love that.
The embodiment of passion right here.
The embodiment of passion.
Yeah, I really appreciated your insight. For me, learning about the traditional space as well, I've opened up my mind a lot about it. So thank you so much for joining.